Welcome to the Lupit Poll Instagram live interview series. My name is Sergia Louise. Today we're going to be talking to Teresa Rodriguez. I'm very excited about this conversation. She's a poller, a Madrid-based poller, educator, competitor, performer, and something that is so cool about her too that we've run into each other over the years. She is always just a lifelong student, and I just love that so much about her. A fantastic mover, choreographer, innovator. Super excited to chat to her today about some of her routines as well. So I'm going to go ahead and invite her to come on. Let's see if I can invite her to come on. Questions you have for Teresa? She definitely has a very unique style and has really kind of gone into her niche of heels. And hello,
Hi.
how are you? So good to see you.
You too. It's really nice to see you again.
I was talking about how something I admire about you so much is you have such a unique and beautiful style of your own and still have just been a lifelong student of
Oh,
movement. And I love that so much about you.
thank you. I love it. I mean, dance has always been such a big part of my life, and I can't imagine life without like exploring all of the dance styles that catch my attention. And there's some things that I've been studying for years, other things that I pick up and then I move on to something else. And I just really like learning from everything and taking a little bit of everything and bringing it into my own style.
Yes, that is the best. I tell us a little bit about your like kind of what styles you played in and what you got into and stayed with for a while and then moved on to something else. Like tell us about that journey.
Okay, so I actually started, I think the first dance style that I ever did was probably classical ballet. I started when I was, I think, 4 years old, something like that. And that style I did for 14 years. And I remember that when I actually discovered pole, which was just a little bit before I turned 18, I was still doing ballet and I was kind of juggling both things at the same time. But being like a teenager and not having money to do both things, I had to kind of choose. So I think at the beginning, ballet had like a big influence in my style, with the lines and kind of this delicate, elegant sort of aesthetic. But I really love commercial dance and hip hop. So I think really soon I started to play with making choreos in those styles and blending that with the pole. And then I discovered heels in pole, and I really fell in love with like being as sexy as humanly possible. And then that turned into its own niche when I started playing more with edge work and like getting really specific about footwork. And for example, I also do a lot of social dance and couples dancing. So something that I picked up and then left was actually bachata, which is a couples dance that I've also done a little bit of a fusion with the pole. And then I kind of left it because I discovered a different couples dance style, which is kizomba, which I'm currently very, very much in love with. So that's like an example of something that I did for a while. I brought it into the pole for a while and then it kind of like faded back.
Yeah, I love that. I just love that journey of moving into different styles, trying them on, playing with them, seeing how they integrate with your, with your repertoire already. It's just, I think one of the most fabulous things about just dance and movement is it never gets old.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, it's always been about trying to actively follow what I'm like really interested in at the moment and very passionate about. And when I notice that I'm kind of losing that passion in a specific style, I try not to be like, oh, but no, this is a part of my identity and I need to keep doing this because what happens if I lose this? No, I let it go. And I know that maybe someday I'll come back to it if I feel like it. And if not, that's okay. But I really try to go with what really sparks the love at the moment. And I know that things come and go, so I try not to like force myself to stick with something if I'm just not feeling it anymore. Yeah.
And the evolution and every, like in every new style that you study and you play with, it's going to be a part of you forever, just knowing those different ways of moving are just now like integrally a part of your knowledge,
Mhm.
and just chasing the joy and finding out what feels good next. I didn't know you started polling when you were 18. How awesome is that?
Yeah, I think my first class, I was 17, and I think that I wasn't like technically even allowed to be there, but they were like, well, you're almost 18, it's your birthday in a month. Yeah, you can join, and that's okay. I was really young, yes.
Okay, had some questions for you. Let me know how pole has empowered you personally over your pole career.
That's such a good question because I feel like the answer to that has really changed over time. So I think at the beginning, actually, the very, very first thing that I found very interesting in pole and attracted me was that because I had done many other dance styles, and usually like in a class, it's a very like large group setting and you're always dancing with a lot of people. And then suddenly in pole, it's like I have a pole for myself and I can like film myself and I can do my own things and I can invent my own stuff and I'm not just always part of a big group. And I do love group classes. It's not like I don't like being in a group, but it gave me this sense of I can actually like do my own thing and take up more space with this. So that was very fun at the beginning. Then very early on, I started when I discovered more like the sexiness of it. It was really fun to connect with that part of myself, which I hadn't really explored that much in dance before. Even at the beginning, when I first saw people doing pole in heels, I remember that, like a lot of people, I think at the time, I was like, I think I like the tricks, I like the dance, I'm not so much into the heels. And then immediately that completely went away. And I thought, no, you know what? This is so amazing. Of course, I love heels. And so it was very, yeah, very empowering to be able to connect with a more like sexy and even sexual part of myself through movement. And then I think it evolved into like the most meaningful thing I think that it's left me with is my kind of exploration of freestyling and really connecting to not just what my dance wants to look like, but also how does my body feel and how does my energy feel, and if I want to express something, you can do it through your body, through movement. And I really like using the pole as an element to freestyle with. So I think that that was the most meaningful thing that it brought, was that ability to really express myself more through dance, because I am in general quite a shy person and quite an introvert. So it's really amazing for me to let my body do the speaking.
Oh, wow. That was just so beautifully expressed. Thank you for that. Yeah, because really having started pole at 18, you really did a lot of growing up
Hmm.
with your thing and finding, um, through your own evolution. And I love that fact that you're talking about how coming from, ballet or jazz or commercial dance, and finding pole, realizing that, oh, this is my space. I get to have this sacred space with this pole. I get to uniquely move, maybe, and it's accepted to not move exactly like everyone else, like a cog in the machine. Um, um, with, and being able to find a little bit more individuality. I definitely resonate
Hmm.
with that big time. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I remember that shift. I remember going from rooms full of loads of people and having a small amount of space, and then finding pole and there being this sacred space for me,
Mhm.
explore, and more time, more space, just more, I feel like, just acceptance. If I was kind of playing around with something in my own world, that was accepted.
Mhm.
Whereas, coming from ballet, jazz, modern, or commercial dance, that's just not something you even have
Yeah.
is even something you can do.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's not even a possibility until you find a place where it suddenly is, and it's like your whole world expands a little bit.
Yeah. And literally the something that was just stood out to me so much was even just in the warm-ups of having always been kind of trying to be the cookie cutter dancer, and you're going through the warm-ups and you're doing what the teacher thinks you should be doing to warm up, and then coming into pole, moving slower and doing the warm-up and kind of being like, well, I just kind of feel
Mhm.
like hanging out here for a little while, and that being acceptable, which was so unacceptable.
Yeah,
Any other dance form. When you're at the bar, you do what the combo is given to you.
yeah.
Like, and so I love that. You just express it so beautifully. Okay, so let's move on to, how do you hope to empower your students? I know are you teaching in person as well? And I know you have a lot of
Hmm.
online classes as well.
Yes, I do online and in person. Um, oh, I mean, I would love to empower them in so many different ways, honestly, but I think maybe the things that stand out for me or that come up for me like as most important right now, uh giving people the sensation that they can do whatever they want to with their bodies. Like, first of all, you have permission to do what you want to with your body. So in a class setting, you choose, do you want to make this harder, easier? Like, what's your mood today? How strong do you feel, or how flexible do you feel, or whatever? So you have this autonomy and agency to make decisions in your own movement, depending on what you feel, and helping people actually listen to their bodies as well, so that they can connect to that and figure out, okay, so what do I want to do today? Um, so that's something that I love. And also encouraging people to explore different styles and really find something that feels authentically good for them, because sometimes I feel like there's maybe, being really, really general, I would say there's like two types of people coming into pole. Like people who come into it for like the sexiness, or people who are like, oh, I saw this really spectacular, tricky thing, and now I want to do all of the upside down stuff. And sometimes when you start, because you've seen something or a specific style calls to you, you kind of get stuck in that, and you don't really know that maybe there's something else that would feel even better, or maybe you're forcing yourself to do it this way because you think it's the only way. So I like to really encourage people to find their own style, to try things on, to yeah, really find what resonates for them and what feels good for them in their movement, because ultimately we're all there to have fun and enjoy it. Movement should be enjoyable, especially if you're attending a dance class. You're just doing it probably for fun, at least at the beginning. So really try to find what feels good for you.
Yeah, that play practice,
Mm-hmm.
that, I mean, it can be such this wonderful playground for us as adults to
Mm-hmm.
access. And a lot of people come into it thinking that, I'm here to do great. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a rewind. We're all adults
Yeah.
here. Like, we're here to have fun. We're here to play.
Yeah.
So to be really listening to their own unique way that their body wants to move. I love that. I know. I'm so inspired. I really want to get into one of your classes soon.
Always welcome.
have all these like to-do lists of what I want to do when I have more time. When I have more
Mm.
time, there's never enough time. I
Mm.
have like movement FOMO.
Oh, I know what you mean. Life sometimes gets in the way of living.
Totally, yes. Oh my gosh. Okay, so, and I think you already answered this, but tell me if this is down that road. The question is, how do you maintain your passion for pole dancing? And from what I heard, it's really about, for you, having followed that joy and not really being attached to the ego of, I am this kind of dancer.
Absolutely. I think that for me, that was the most key thing. Really listening to myself, following what felt good, not forcing myself to do, not even within styles, which we've already mentioned, but even things like, when everyone around you, especially in the few years, like at the starting years when you're not really sure how this world and industry works, suddenly everyone's competing and you're like, oh, well, then I should compete. Or if people start teaching and you're like, should I be teaching? Or then suddenly people are opening studios, and not forcing myself to do things just because everyone else is doing it or because it seems like that's like the path that's been set. So for instance, for me, something that was important was I used to compete a lot, and then I just completely stopped because I noticed, okay, I mean, it has fun things, but for me, this doesn't really feel like good. Honestly, it's too stressful. So I kind of um, went out of my way to make my own path and really cater it to what actually felt good to me. So yeah, that's been like the most important thing to keep the passion alive. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes me think about how, in some ways, we're still lucky that pole is so young, right?
Mm.
Because in other forms, that path is so rigid and so concrete. To be a professional ballet dancer, to be a commercial dancer, whatever, that's very, this is what you do, this is how you do it,
Mm-hmm.
this is what success. And it just made me think when you were talking about how wonderful pole that we experienced pole dancing at its young stages, because it's true that we saw just a couple generations do it a certain way, but it wasn't like you know 10 generations that did it one way. It was like
Hmm.
two. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
by the time we came, so it's like, so there maybe was just a little bit more wiggle room
Mm.
for being able to carve a path of our own. So, anyways, just
Yeah.
that was just mind.
I love the way
Okay,
that you put that. Mm-hmm.
thank you. So, how do you prioritize self-care and your emotional well-being in your pole career? And I think there's obviously some overlap with what we've already talked about, but anything to add?
Yeah, I think, well, for me, my whole career, and also obviously because it is my job and like my full-time thing, it's I don't see it disconnected from my dance life, and my dance life is also like I don't see that disconnected from my everyday life. So for me, everything is very, very closely connected, and it's not compartmentalized. Um, so very important for me to prioritize like my mental health. And like I love therapy. I've been going to therapy for a very long while now, and that's been like huge for me in my personal life, and that overlaps into my dancing and my work because something that can be kind of stressful, at least something that I found stressful for myself, being a pole instructor and teaching workshops and intensives and traveling and all of that, you start of kind of um, putting this pressure on yourself. For me, it was like regarding the quality of my classes, and everything had to be always excellent, and everyone always had to be like, the students had to be so happy and ecstatic in every class, and otherwise I'd think like, oh no, I'm doing it wrong, I'm not good enough as an instructor. And so just taking care of my mental health outside of pole has really translated into dance. And also respecting my body. So in that line of following the styles that make me happy and that feel good to me, when I started deciding, like, you know what, I don't really feel like going up the pole too much anymore. I'd rather stay with low flow. Then I decided to go with that. When I feel like I don't feel so strong today, I'm not going to push myself into doing like the difficult stuff. I can just dance and do some feel good movement. So listening to my body when I'm doing my dance practice, and then also trying to sleep well and take massages when I can and do that kind of pampering for the physical body has also been really important.
Yeah, I was also just thinking about how when I'm inspired and I really am inspired to create, inspired with creativity, it's really interesting. I've never been the best. I think that pole is really, and just dance has helped me have goals so that I keep my, that I keep on track, right? So
Mm.
I've never won before dancing, and before dance was part of my life, which has been most of my life. But without that, I've never been great at like going to the gym and taking care of myself, and maybe some of the emotional ways as well. But when you have the true passion for something and you know that you need to make something that's in your heart or in your
Mm.
head, all of a sudden you start to think about, oh, I really need to take care of myself so I can show up for this practice. I really need
Yeah.
to be on point so that when I get the opportunity to dance, that it will feel good, that I won't be injured and have to take breaks from the thing that I love, that
Mm.
I in a mental space to be able to create the thing that I'm trying to put out there. So yeah, I always, I definitely get questions sometimes from students about, how do you make sure that are taking care of yourself? And I say, well, like think about what you love to do. Think about what turns you on and what you have to do in order to show up for that.
Mm.
Maybe it's like a smaller goal that they can attach to or something. But
Mm.
yeah, I love that how you said it's not really like, it's really life in general.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I love the way that you explained it also, just so that we can keep doing this for as long as possible, right? Something that makes you so happy, you want to be able to do it forever if you can. So yeah, I'm going to do the best that I can to always be able to do this in any way that I can. Hmm.
Oh, good. This is going to be a good one for a lot of people to hear. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about your performance competition. I know you were kind of playing with that for a little while, and then you were saying you kind of revised where you wanted to be with your own
Hmm.
practice. Just for fun, why don't we pick out maybe one of your favorite routines, a routine that stands out to you, and talk to me about, the inspiration for the routine, the process, the music selection, stuff like that.
Okay. Okay. So, uh, yes, I did compete for several years and now I don't compete anymore, but I love to perform. I love it so, 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 so much. I especially love performing in like smaller, kind of more intimate settings because I really like having my audience quite close and being able to really make eye contact and feed off of their energy, even though I love a big stage as well. So I think my favorite performances have been definitely performances versus competitions. Like I always much prefer my just for fun or for work, but like just without pressure performances. And so for instance, one that I really enjoyed that I did last summer, I did kind of Little Mermaid inspired piece. So the song that I used was actually a song that I had been really obsessed with for years. Sometimes that happens. Like I love a song, I don't do anything at all with it, and suddenly years later I'm like, now is the time. Let me do it now. In the case of that song, I've actually made like three different choreos to it. Like I love it so much that I've used it for multiple things and classes and stuff. But so I really wanted to make that mermaid piece, and it was this kind of dark cover of Kiss the Girl from The Little Mermaid. So that was my musical choice, and that really inspired the whole process of choreographing because I thought, okay, I'm a mermaid. I have to keep my legs glued together for like half of the piece, and it's going to be the process of the mermaid turning into the human and like enjoying her human legs for the first time and being like, wow, look at all the things I can do with them. And that also really allowed me to play a lot with edge work because what I thought was, okay, so if I've never had feet, like I've
Mhm.
never had human feet, so I have not been like what's the word, like brainwashed into there is only one one way that is allowed to use your feet. No, I'd be like using my feet all over the place because I've never had them before. So that really gave me the ideas to come up with the movement for the choreography. And then once I had that, it all just kind of flowed together. I, in the same line of, I really like to follow what feels passionate in the moment. I really love to choreograph my performances like just a couple days in advance, which for some people is probably very stressful, but for me, it's the opposite. I love to do it, if possible, all in one session. Like if I can do it all in one day, I will choreograph it all in one day because then I'm in the same mood, like for the whole space of the choreographing. And that really allows me to do what I really feel like doing today. Because otherwise, I choreograph something today. In 2 months, I want to do something else. I want to do a different song, different theme, different concept, or whatever. So I like to choreograph last minute. Yeah, and I choreographed that like 2 days before the show. And it was so, so, so much fun. So the way it all came together from the song and then into the movement concepts and then into the actual choreography. Yeah.
Gosh, so now you're gonna have to give us like a sneak peek somewhere on your Instagram. Put it in your stories or
I
something, or
will.
post about it. So see this routine because now I really want to see it.
I will. I will. I love that one so much. I'll definitely do it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Where can we find you if people want to train with you, want to take your classes, want to study with you?
For my in-person classes, I live in Madrid and I teach in a studio called Central de Pol here in Madrid. In that studio, I also teach intensives here in Madrid, and I have one actually coming up in March, which is actually a whole freestyle, it's like freestyle, sexy themed freestyle intensive, which I'm very, very excited to be teaching. That's coming up in March. And aside from here in Madrid, I also travel and teach workshops as well. And I have a lot of online classes. So I do online live Zoom classes. I currently have some happening on Friday afternoons. They're low flow online classes. And I also have a tutorial shop with loads of past class recordings and tutorials with everything like from choreography, heels, low flow, edge work, floor work, everything.
At
Yeah.
your Instagram, like link in bio.
I have the link in my bio, yes. Or it's also, everything is in my website. It's polefictiondance.com, and everything is also linked through there. But yeah, all the links are in my bio, super easy to find.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's been so wonderful chatting with you and catching
Yeah.
up with you.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It was really nice chatting with you. And yeah, I loved
All
it.
right. Well, take care. Mwah. Bye,
You
Teresa.
too. Bye bye.